Take away your car, your gun, your phone, and drop you in the middle of the Serengeti. No tools, no weapons. You have no claws, no fangs. Your bite force is somewhere around 150 pounds per square inch. A hyena's is over 1,000. You can't outrun a house cat, let alone a lion. Your night vision is close to useless. You have no fur, no thick hide, nothing to stop a set of teeth from going straight through. By almost every physical measure, humans should be one of the weakest animals on the savannah. Slower than a gazelle, weaker than a chimpanzee half our size, blind after sunset. And yet something strange happens out there. Most wild animals, even the ones that could kill you in seconds, take one look at you and leave. So the question is simple. Do they actually think we're weak, or is something else going on entirely? Let's start with the numbers, because they're brutal. A chimpanzee, at roughly half a human's body weight, is estimated to be somewhere between 2 and 5 times stronger pound for pound, mostly because of muscle fiber composition built for climbing and swinging. A gorilla can bend the steel bars at the zoo. An ostrich can seriously injure a lion with a single kick. Even a house cat has faster reflexes than you do. Humans didn't get the claws, the horns, the venom, or the speed. What we got instead was a big brain and a decent throwing arm. That's it. That's the starter pack. So when a leopard sees a human walking through the bush alone, unarmed, slow, and half-blind in the dark, evolution would suggest it should see a meal. Instead, in study after study, it runs. This is where it gets interesting. Wildlife researchers, including work led by ecologist Liana Zanet, have spent years running an experiment across South Africa and parts of North America. They hide speakers near watering holes and play different sounds to see how animals react. Lion roars, growls, barking dogs, and human voices, just calm, ordinary conversation. Across species after species, from leopards to badgers to elephants. The animals didn't flee fastest from the lions, they fled fastest from us. In some of these trials, large carnivores fled from the sound of a human talking roughly twice as often as they fled from an actual predator's roar. Let that sit for a second. An apex predator, built to kill things much bigger than a human, is more afraid of the sound of your voice than the sound of a lion. Not because you look dangerous. You don't. Because something in that species' memory has learned that humans are worse than any predator on the food chain. That's what ecologists call the landscape of fear. It's not really about your muscles or your teeth. It's about reputation. Humans, as a species, have spent tens of thousands of years hunting cooperatively and using weapons that make physical strength irrelevant. And that cooperative part matters more than people realize. A lion hunts alone or in a small pride, and it hunts with its own body. A human hunting party doesn't need to be strong at all. It just needs numbers, planning, and something sharp on the end of a stick. Anthropologists studying persistence hunting, still practiced by groups like the Sand People of the Kalahari, have documented humans running healthy antelope to death in open heat over several hours, not by being fast, but by simply refusing to stop. No other predator on the savannah hunts like that. Nothing chases you for 6 hours in the midday sun until your body just gives out. And the fear doesn't stay frozen at spear and fire levels either. It updates, fast, whenever our methods change. Zanet's team also found that lions and other large carnivores in areas with heavy hunting pressure show measurably stronger avoidance responses to human voices than the same species in protected reserves nearby, sometimes within a single generation. When rifles replaced spears across parts of Africa in the 20th century, researchers tracking predator behavior noted avoidance responses sharpening within a few decades, not the tens of thousands of years it presumably took to build the original instinct. The reputation isn't just old, it's actively being rewritten, upward or downward, based on what the local humans are actually doing with their hands. That's the behavior that appears to have gotten encoded into the instincts of an entire continent's worth of predators, generation after generation, whether or not any individual animal has ever personally seen a human do anything violent at all. So maybe the answer is obvious. Animals don't think we're weak. They think we're the most dangerous thing in the ecosystem, and they're right to. Except that's not the whole story, because some animals clearly haven't gotten the memo. Take the Cape buffalo. Hunters in Africa nickname it the Black Death, and it's responsible for more hunter deaths than lions, leopards, and elephants combined, by most estimates. Cape buffalo don't run from humans. They circle back. Wounded ones have been documented ambushing the hunters who shot at them, waiting in thick brush and charging from the side. That is not the behavior of an animal that's afraid of you. That's an animal that has decided you are beatable. Or look at chimpanzees near Kibale Forest in Uganda, where villages have expanded into chimp territory. Researchers have documented chimps attacking, and in some cases killing, human children in nearby villages. In areas where chimps interact with people regularly and see that people don't retaliate the way a predator would, some of that inherited caution appears to erode. And then there's one of the strangest findings in all of this. Research led by ecologist Graham Shannon found that African elephants can apparently tell human ethnic groups apart by scent and by the color and smell of clothing, and react very differently depending on which group they encounter. Elephants that had a history of conflict with certain groups fled almost immediately at the smell of their clothing. Elephants with no such history barely reacted at all. In other words, the fear isn't universal. It's learned, it's specific, and it can be updated, which means it can also be lost. You can watch that happen in real time in cities. Urban coyotes in North America are documented moving through neighborhoods in broad daylight, something older generations of coyotes almost never did. Baboons in parts of Cape Town break into houses and open car doors for food. Herring gulls in UK coastal towns snatch food directly out of people's hands. In India, some cities have documented leopards living quietly on the edges of dense neighborhoods for years, moving through at night, avoiding conflict, essentially learning to treat humans as background noise rather than threat. And in Yellowstone, black bears that once fled at the first sight of a car now sit calmly by roadsides while tourists photograph them from a few feet away. It cuts the opposite direction just as fast. Lions in Zambia's heavily poached corridors have been recorded avoiding roads and human settlements almost entirely, moving mainly at night, while lions inside well-protected reserves a few hundred kilometers away, where they've had decades without serious conflict, will walk within feet of safari vehicles without reacting at all. Same species, same continent, genetically almost identical, and a completely different read on how dangerous we are, based purely on what that specific population has lived through. None of these animals evolved to lose their fear of humans. They learned it individually within a single lifetime, because the humans around them stopped behaving like a threat. No retaliation, no consequence, just an easy meal, or just enough repeated exposure with nothing bad happening. So which is it? Are we the super predator that half the animal kingdom is genetically primed to flee from the moment they hear us speak? Or are we one bad interaction away from an elephant, a buffalo, or a troop of baboons quietly recalculating the odds? The honest answer is both, depending entirely on what that specific animal or its ancestors have actually experienced. Fear of humans isn't hardwired the way fear of fire is. It's closer to a rumor passed down and reinforced generation after generation in places where humans have earned that reputation the hard way. And rumors, no matter how old, only survive if something keeps proving them true. That might be the strangest part of all this. We're not actually strong. Not one of us, alone, unarmed, in the dark. What we've built instead is something almost more powerful than strength. A reputation so consistent, so deeply reinforced across thousands of years and thousands of species, that animals who have never once seen a human do anything violent will still run from the sound of our voice. Which raises an uncomfortable thought. Every time we remove the consequence, every time we let an animal learn that we're not actually dangerous, we're not making the world safer. We're just spending down a fear that took millennia to build, and might not take nearly as long to lose.